Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you have put behind all the speculations pertaining to the prelims 2022 cutoff and began your mains preparation. And from this video, we will be beginning with the topics pertaining to mains 2022 and we will try to be as multidimensional as possible. So I request you to please use this video in different areas and different papers. Now, what is the scope of the topic that we are discussing? What is the topic? Open network for digital commerce. And before we proceed, I would like to make a disclaimer that there are certain people who want this to be a bit slower, or there are some people who want it to be a bit faster. So there is this option of adjusting the speed of the video. So please watch it at your comfortable speed. Now, the topic that I'm discussing today is open network for digital commerce. And what is the scope of this video and how do we use this topic in different papers? Firstly, you can use this as an example in science and technology essay, or even if it is a philosophical essay when you're covering the science and tech dimension, you can use this as an example. Then it is possible to have a question as a standalone topic in GS3 paper, or you can use this as a single line in your science and tech answers and also science and tech dimension of economic growth topic. These are the various ways in which you can use this topic. Since this video is also an explainer, I'll be posting the short note format of this slides in the Telegram channel, that is Hindu Highlights. You can download from there. So please focus on understanding the concept. So this is the Telegram channel on which I'll be posting the link of this document. Before beginning with any topic, it is important to have a context, and I personally like this topic because of the potential that it has. Open network for digital commerce. You know that e-commerce has given access to huge number of sellers who relied upon platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, etc. But with that, there is also an increasing competition for the ad space or your search result. Whenever you search a product, let's say you're searching for some product X, and there are various companies which are selling this product X, and they all want to be on the top of the search list. And because of what is accused as algorithmic bias, companies which have deep pockets can always afford to be at the top of search results, and some good quality products are not being found on the first two pages of the search result. So this is one of the accusation by a lot of small time traders. So this is where this ONDC comes into the picture and plays a role of facilitator for these small time traders. Let us see how it is possible. But how did the government come across this idea and how did it conceive this idea? The inspiration for this goes back to 2020 when the first lockdown was announced. You know that the government announced lockdown in April 2020 or March 2020, soon after the first wave of COVID hit us. So during that time, you must have remembered it was very difficult for a lot of families to access essential supplies. In cities, it is this e-commerce that allowed the delivery of this essential supplies across various containment zones. And it was indeed a very big challenge in tier 2 and tier 3 cities where the established supply chains were not being used effectively. So the government realized that there was a specific trend which is existing within the e-commerce players. They tend to focus on only profit making areas, and rightly so, because every business will be focusing on making profits, and that is how they sustain. But having said that, it does not mean that tier 2 and tier 3 cities do not have the scope. The ecosystem needs a push from the government, and that is where ONDC comes into the picture. Before proceeding further to understand what exactly is ONDC, let us have a look at certain statistics. India has been going big on digital platforms, and Digital India program is one of the flagship programs of this government. And three of the world's largest public digital platforms, namely Aadhaar, UPI and CoWIN, are from India. And also India has the highest fintech adoption rate of 87%. And you compare that with the global average, it is just 64%. And a major part of this success goes to UPI. So if we can emulate this success, it is going to be huge for various other domains as well. So what is ONDC? Basically, like I've told you, it is a platform or a website where the aim is to democratize digital commerce. What does this mean? Say, for example, if we search a product on Amazon and again we have to search it individually on Flipkart, if there is an incentive for Flipkart and Amazon to integrate their platforms with ONDC, that will act as a one-stop solution for e-commerce. ONDC will act as a one-stop solution. It will also show the differences in prices, and customers will get the best price, and the traders and the sellers will get best visibility because there is no influence of Amazon's algorithm or Flipkart's algorithm. So the keyword that we have to use in the examination, the main effect of ONDC is that it will move from being a platform centric business to open network. This is the keyword that you have to use for your exam. ONDC moves the business from being a platform centric one to an open network. Now let us understand what an open network means and how is it different from a closed network. In order to understand an open network, you have to know what is called as an open source software. Now what do you mean by this open source software? Let us take the example of Android. Android is a platform which allows the app makers to modify that and also redistribute it so that everyone can use it. And compare this with Apple's iOS. This Apple's iOS cannot be used by app developers to make a modification and change it according to their need. So it is not an open source, it is a closed source. So a open source software will not ask additional license fee for using that, unlike a closed source software. So ONDC is an open source software. Similarly, if you take the UPI protocol, a lot of apps which are used in the fintech industry are because of the success of UPI as a open source software. Now this can be a question in mains examination. What is the significance of ONDC to Indian economy? First one is competition. Like you know, the big companies have kept out all the small players. So the existing platforms will work in silos. So they are not interoperable, just like in the case of the fintech industry when UPI did not come into existence. So platforms like Amazon, Flipkart control more than 50 to 60% of the market, and therefore there is no competition. This will induce that competition. Second one is the choice for consumers. There is freedom of choice. Choice is considered to be one of the biggest feature of a market economy. It is expected to make e-commerce more inclusive and accessible for consumers because they can get to choose what is important for them. They can potentially discover any seller. Say if a particular seller is selling it for 100 rupees, and if they get a choice who sells it for 80 rupees, consumer will be happy. Therefore, more and more number of people will be willing to adopt e-commerce. It also augments the scope for e-commerce transactions in our economy, and this will also increase the penetration of e-commerce and thereby strengthening our supply chains. The fourth point, it will reduce the cost for sellers who will eventually pass it on to buyers, and therefore everyone involved will be very happy. The next point is increase in investments. You might ask how. So businesses are expected to benefit from transparent rules. You know, today the entry barrier for e-commerce is very high. So no new competent player wants to enter into this business or even bring about innovation because there are existing giants. So light investment can bring in huge successes in our supply chain through technological interventions. And just like in the case of UPI, which saw success in diplomacy, let's say for example Bhutan and other countries like Nepal adopted UPI standards and UPI protocols. So that is considered to be a diplomatic engagement, and it also aids in diplomacy. So the digital platforms are becoming some sort of a avenue for this new kind of global diplomacy. So it is important. You have seen this even in the case of CoWIN as a platform which was adopted by various countries for tracking the vaccine drive that is going on in their country during the time of pandemic. So what is the way ahead for ONDC and what are the challenges it has to overcome to make it a bigger success? So the first one, according to the Ministry of Commerce, The first focus should be on increasing the number of sellers from the present level to at least 12 lakh sellers in the next 5 years. Secondly, it should focus on integrating the supply chains which are existing and strengthening them, because tier 2 and tier 3 cities are not yet strengthened, and for this we need to bring in more logistic firms and their infrastructure support is very crucial. Apart from all this, we have seen that there is a trend of increase in consumption if the content available on these digital platforms is of vernacular content, that is regional languages. So the government should focus on encouraging regional content for more awareness. So this will eventually raise the e-commerce market penetration from the present 8% of the entire country to 25% in the next 3 to 4 years. And the last one is right to privacy. Data protection bill was supposed to ensure this right to privacy, but it is yet to be legislated. So the ONDC should be compliant with certain legislations like the IT Act of 2000 and address this privacy concerns of both the sellers and the consumers. And the government must guarantee that the data that is generated out of this ONDC platform is not sold or shared with anyone apart from something that can benefit the public at large. So that is the topic of ONDC. I hope you found this useful. That's it for now. Please like, share and subscribe if you found this useful. Thank you.